A lovely good morning to you, our viewers. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. Of today, of course, being the 22nd of August 2022. I hope you're having a lovely morning and a wonderful morning, being a new week. What have you planned? What do you want to achieve this week? And I hope all those plans that you have put in place will come to your fulfillment. But anyway, away from that, we are here to bring you nothing but the best of what the Camnet TV Breakfast Show has for you. I am your host, Miriam Kaimba, and later on I will be joined by my colleague Zipporah Mshala. But anyway, we have a lot in store for you this morning. At 7:30 we will be joined by a guest where we're going to be looking at bringing rural development using constituency development funds, and later at 8 we will be joined by another guest where we're going to be looking at restoring sanity in the health sector. I know it's quite a lot of people have been talking about how different health workers have a different way of how they handle their work. But anyway, this is a topic that you wouldn't want to miss and would want to stay tuned. But to our viewers out there, last week we did mention that we're having challenges with our phone line. But hey, this will not hinder you from participating and contributing to what you have for us. We are streaming live on Facebook, and in case you're just watching us on Facebook, please drop us a comment or a question and we will be able to respond and read out those messages. But anyway, right about now, we'll go direct into our health corner from the Women Medical Association of Zambia, where they're going to be talking about treatment of mental health. I know mental health has been a challenge, and where people have called for the need of building up different rehab centers on how they can help people who are depressed. Mental health should be, and people have continued to advocate that mental health should be taken serious. This is the more reason people are saying, this is the more reason why we are seeing a high number of people committing suicide, a lot of people killing each other. But hey, do you think there's need for mental health to be treated, to be taken with the seriousness it deserves? But anyway, right about now, we'll go direct into the Healthy Corner and see what the doctors have for us on treatment of mental illness.
Everyone, my names are Dr. Ebedi Sadoki, a public health specialist currently with USAID SAFE. Today, I'll talk about how to treat mental health illnesses. I'd spoken about the triggers, I'd spoken about what it is all about, how it manifests or shows itself, but today, let's talk about treatment. For awareness, I feel like talking about treatment is very important so that those that need it can not be discouraged but seek for medical help whenever they find themselves having some of these symptoms, maybe even early enough. So most of the treatment, if approached early, can be solved with counseling, with professional counseling, sitting down and talking about it, running through it, and there are qualified psychosocial counselors who are all over the country and can help us whenever we need it. And then in other cases, there can be medical treatment, that is having to swallow tablets for the purpose of treating the mental health illness. And for our clients, the mentally ill clients, we need to ensure that we prepare a support system for adherence to medication. They need to have either a close relative or friend who will be reminding them to take these medications appropriately and on time and correctly. So I think for other conditions, maybe other patients can take their medications on their own, but for mental health disorders, because the mind may not be ready to remember and appreciate its importance, there's need for a treatment buddy or a case manager that is supporting the treatment. And then also there's need for disclosure. There's need to disclose that this is the condition and this is how we're going to treat it and this is how it will resolve. And then, of course, we need to address the forms of stigma that could be around it. Remember, I talked about in the introduction that I hope this awareness can help us change on how we look at mentally ill individuals, because we can find that there may be, if I give an example of a patient hallucinating and they've got cerebral malaria. But if there's someone with mental illness and also talking irrelevantly, you find that the other patient with malaria is taken a good care of, is tolerated, is supported, whereby the mentally ill individual will be abused, sometimes physically, and they are pushed away, they are not brought close and supported. So it is important that through treatment, this support system is also looked into. So for today, thank you very much for listening. This was Dr. Sadoki with you on mental health awareness. So see you tomorrow when we talk about prevention. Thank you for listening and bye.
I hope you did learn one or two things there with regard to treatment of mental illness. It is very important that you continue, understanding about these healthy issues. But anyway, just a reminder to our viewers, in case you're watching us this live today, this morning, for the first time, the Healthy Corner is up for sponsorship. If you want to continue watching the doctors and bring you nothing but the best on those healthy tips, please do come forth and sponsor the Healthy Corner. And also, our next segment, the Money Market, is also up for sponsorship. But right about now, we'll go direct into the Money Market and see how the kwacha is performing against other currencies. So the euro is buying at 16 kwacha 06 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 38 ngwe. The British pound is buying at 18 kwacha 89 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 27 ngwe. The US dollar is buying at 15 kwacha 98 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 29 ngwe. The South African rand is buying at 9 kwacha. Sorry, I beg your pardon. That is
0 kwacha 94.
0 kwacha 94 ngwe and 0 kwacha 96 ngwe. That is our foreign exchange for 2020. For this morning, the 22nd of August 2022. I don't know why I wanted to say for the year 2022, but anyway, we have seen a very, very good improvement on how the US dollar, and of course a lot of people have they're very, very keen to see how the dollar is performing. And we have seen that for quite some time it's between 15 and 16 there. But anyway, as we go forth, we hope that we can have the dollar, drop to maybe somewhere 10. And yeah, this is something that people keep hoping about. But anyway, like I mentioned, that I was not alone. I will be joined by my colleague Zipporah Mshara later on in studio, and I have her right here. Zipporah, good morning.
Good morning, Miriam. How are you?
Did you go for jogging?
Not this morning.
What happened? You disappeared.
But I did drink a lot of water this morning. Like, the daddy says drink water, so I am sure I'm going to be healthy.
Oh, really? That's very, very, very good.
Good morning to you, our viewers. It's a lovely, lovely Monday morning. It's time to actually get up and be productive throughout the whole week.
Exactly. It's a new week, Zipporah. We have made plans, and we hope that, as we make these plans, we'll be able to achieve them and then bring out nothing but the best. But anyway, a lot of things have been happening in our community and in our country, Zambia as well. We have seen a lot of issues on how people still complain about the high cost of living. We have seen the president, on several occasions, and people from the UPND administration, giving hope to the Zambian people that things will be better very soon. But anyway, in the 5 years mandate that they still have, we hope that they'll be able to achieve great things. But right about now, we'll play our story from Lilanda. I think it's you who did it, where a woman was complaining about...
She's got a growing heart, and so due to that, she can't walk, and her stomach is also growing. So I talked to a medical doctor who actually says her stomach growing is due to fluids actually settling in her stomach because the heart does not have enough power to pump blood. So it's a really complicated thing. And she's just 35, but if you look at her, she looks so sick. And that's what she says every day. She's scared that she will die and all that. And she's living with her mother. Only the two of them, her and her mother. And her mother is old.
Did she try to seek for medical treatment?
She has been at the university teaching hospital, according to her. But she says she has to get this course of tablets monthly. But at those times when she goes and they tell her, no, this month we're out, here's the prescription. So she has to take them monthly.
And she's required to buy.
Yes, and she says normally like per course she has to spend about 500, and she doesn't buy it because she doesn't have meaning. She just gets worse and worse. So really, that's just a sad situation altogether. A
very, very sad situation. And we are talking about Zambia achieving its Sustainable Development Goal number 3 of good health and well-being by the year 2030. Yeah, but anyway, we hope that, a lot of things will be improved in these government hospitals, issues of medicine, Zipporah, drugs and what, it has been a big issue for quite some time. You go there, you want to be treated, and then you're given Panadol, you go there, they tell you, no, there's no medicine, and here is a person, Zipporah, who doesn't work. They depend on government health facilities. So if they're going to be given prescription, no, go and buy this medicine, and then you don't have the money, what's the end of you? But anyway, let's get direct to playing that story and just see what we are talking about.
Access to quality health care is a basic human right as it hinges on the well-being and productivity of individuals. It is in this regard that developing countries like Zambia are striving to attain this, hence committing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, with goal number 3 aiming at providing easily accessible quality health care for all by 2030. With only 8 years till the target, indicators in the country show that efforts will need to be enhanced if the target is to be attained, as some citizens are still struggling to access this service. A case in point is a 35-year-old woman of Lilanda compound in Lusaka's Matero constituency, Loveness Hakamola, who says her heart started enlarging 3 years ago. Along with that, her stomach, rendering her immobile. Ms. Hakamola explains that she has been on treatment from the University Teaching Hospital UTH, but is sometimes left destitute when she only receives a prescription after being told that the medicine has run out at that particular time.
Nikaenda ku hospital, ni ma appointment, penango nikaenda. Vanile mbele chape kapepa, kuti kapepa ko kaguleni munkwala manjo nitandizira. Kuti nigule munkwala. Nilibe. Ndalama zakaena zogula. Munkwala wakaena ogula nuodula. Ndrama manile mbela kuti kaguleni penango peza tuwaenda mu drugs okwenda ogula munkwala atuwe munkwala mwe mufuna etani 500. So mani pempa ko tandizo konitandizirako nilibe kochosa ndrama ninkala chape nilibe vochita very vonse.
Meanwhile, a medical doctor, Teddy Mulenga, has explained the medical condition.
So the swelling of the abdomen is due to the fluids, water settling. It's called ascites in the abdomen because the heart is not got enough power to pump the fluids around. That's the cause of the swelling of the abdomen. As far as treatment is concerned, we give water reducing tablets like Lasix, Moduratic, okay, which sometimes even reduce the blood pressure. So those are the tablets we use to reduce the load on the heart.
Ending inequalities in the country will not only mean ensuring that citizens have access to food, but also ensuring that they have equal opportunities in accessing quality health care. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
A very, very sad story out there. We hope that the young lady do receive the adequate medical attention and treatment so that, you know, she can be able to do one or two things that she did hope to achieve all her goals in life. But anyway, we hope that she gets the necessary treatment. This is a very, very sad situation, and I hope relevant authorities, Zipporah, would look forward, you know, and take up a case very seriously. You know, she really, really needs the agent attention.
She needs to go when she goes to UTI, she needs to be given that medicine.
Yeah.
No prescriptions, because the time when I visited her family, her mother was even saying that we hardly eat here, and it's just her and her daughter can't walk. Her mother is above 80 years. She's not even on the social cash transfer program. So you find that the family is really suffering.
But, you know, something that you'd also, you know, try to see how best you can work around these stories. Maybe to find out from the area councillor, the member of parliament there, to see how best they can assist the family. Yes, maybe put them on social cash transfer, I don't know, and other means and ways on how they can help. But it's a very, very quite sad situation, Zipporah, I must say.
We'll definitely talk to the civic leaders and see how best the lady can be helped. And moving on into the headlines, Miriam, we have another interesting story, the demolition that has happened. It has, in Chingola, it has brought a lot of talk and criticism actually on the current administration.
Exactly, and you know, I've seen people comparing what happened in Chingola and comparing it with Forest 27, saying, you know, Forest 27 has not yet, houses there has not yet been demolished. But Zipporah, the fact remains that those land in Chingola were given illegally. But when you look at Forest 27, those land, people obtained land legally there. You know, they have papers. They were within the law. So if government goes ahead and demolishes those land, government will have to pay huge amounts of money to those people. But you know, the Chingola thing, those lands were illegally allocated to the people, to the residents there.
If you look at the Forest 27, you're not supposed to build on a
exactly. Those are now the problems, the things that we should be looking at. But in terms of them acquiring the land, it was legally, they were within the law.
So now that's why government is trying to find out, like, under what circumstances
were they given, yes.
And so, for example, just last week, I attended one of the conference which the head of state had with civic leaders, and it was actually indicating that we need to be proactive, or as local authorities need to be proactive, whereby they have to stop illegalities before maybe a house is constructed, because he said local authorities usually are sleeping when these houses are being built. Maybe a retiree has invested all their savings, they build. Maybe they don't know, maybe they've been swindled or something. When that house is complete, then you come and demolish. But then the head of state was calling for a change of a scenario, stating that in the first place, before this house is built, first you have to inspect how is this land given. Is it legal or illegal, to prevent such things? And we've also heard many people stating that maybe those houses should not have been demolished. This and that, the difference of they're accusing the UPND of saying they're just focused on the law without looking at the human
aspect. Yes.
That's really, anyway, that's for the technical.
But you know, I saw one of the posts on Facebook where, you know, someone did a screenshot of what the president said in 2015, was when he was then in the opposition, and he called on ending the demolition of these illegal structures. So now people are saying, you know, he talked about this when he was in opposition, but he's doing the opposite. So those were some of the arguments that, you know, aspects that people have brought out. But again, the quite sad situation, Zipporah, is the residents of Chingola, you know, it wasn't necessary for them to go and, you know, put on fire the house of the mayor. Why do that? You know, and you know, from the police, I hear 2 people have been arrested. But you know, when it comes to mob justice, only few people get to pay for such kind of incidents when a lot of people were involved and took part in that illegality. But anyway, let's get direct to playing that story and just see more of what that story has in store for us.
Saturday, 20th of August 2022, families of Kasompe area in Chingola, Copperbelt province watched helplessly as their dwelling places they called home for some time got demolished by the Chingola Municipal Council. In their operation, over 300 structures illegally built on Kasompe airstrip, a land on title and belonging to the Zambia Civil Aviation Authority, were brought down. According to the council, in February 2022, an enforcement notice for the developers to suspend all works within a period of 28 days as required under the provisions of Section 49(1) and 2 of the Urban and Regional Planning Act No. 3 of 2015 of the laws of Zambia was issued. However, this notice fell on deaf ears. Commenting on the matter, Opposition Patriotic Front presidential hopeful Brian Mondobile is saddened by the situation in Chingola, describing it as a clear sign that the UPND administration does not care for the poor people.
We wish to condemn those acts and call upon the UPND government that once again, can they begin to have a human face when dealing with these delicate matters. It's not to rule by the text, even if it means you're going to kill all your citizens and you want to appear good and follow your textbooks. Put on a human face, understand the circumstances. How else can we do this? Is there another way? If somebody built a house in the middle of the road, maybe my position would be different. But you're talking about having built properties in an area which is disused, a disused runway, that is not even being utilized at the moment. And what would be most unfortunate, as we know our friends in the UPND, not very long from now, you will see a so-called investor, some rich white fellow, will be given that property to begin to develop.
Mr. Mundubile also questioned where the council was for people to erect structures on illegal land.
What I think the councils must do, they must not take pride and pleasure in causing pain on others, especially the poor people. The council must now build capacity to step up efforts. The inspectorate departments of the council must take steps to enhance capacity in those areas, such that even before construction, even before the allocation of these plots are done, the inspectorate is able to nip it in the bud, and thereby saving money from innocent people, poor people, unsuspecting public. You can imagine that most of those proceeded under the belief that they were getting plots from legitimate sources. It was up to the council to ensure, it's up to the council now to ensure that the innocent purchasers of land for value are not victims in the end. Those that sold them those plots, who ideally maybe even be councillors living under the UPND today, got the money and they're happy with that money. They've built houses elsewhere.
Meanwhile, Chingola constituency Member of Parliament Chipoka Mulenga, who is in Nigeria on national duty, says he will ensure that land illegalities in his constituency are a thing of the past.
I've learned the development that has happened in Chingola. For a long time, yes, people have built in wrong areas and everything, demolitions have happened, but the people who allocate plots in wrong places have never been held accountable. And our administration and me as Member of Parliament in my area, as much as the allocation of plot and demolition does not sit under the jurisdiction of the Member of Parliament, but I wish to engage the council and the people so that whatever misallocation or wrong activities should just be brought to an end now. But the question that we should just act proactively is, when people start building, where are we and who is giving the plots? But ultimately, allow me first to go on the ground and interact with my people and see how best I can support them while they are going through this challenge.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News.
Quite sad and controversial story. I mean, I can imagine after you've built and that, how would you feel?
Have you seen the way those women were crying out? They were crying, you know, I could feel their pain. Imagine the money you spent on buying land, first of all, the money you spent on buying material to build your house, and then now your house is being demolished. And you know, those are illegal structures, but if they're demolished, it's not that like they're going to be compensated. No. So you go to square one again and then start building, looking for money to buy land and start building, you know, buying all those materials. A very, very quite sad situation. You know, it's like you're being now put to square one on how you're going to start doing your things. But this is something, again, that us as people, we should learn. You know, if the land is illegal and you are given warning by the relevant authority, the councils, you know, the civic leaders, please stop building. Because once they demolish them, you won't be compensated. It's you who's going to do that.
I think it should be warned in the early stages than when someone has finished, then you say this is illegal. But if you are warned, you have to stop, because it's a must to be demolished. Just, for example, those just here in Lusaka, there's that place, the railroad reserve in Uganda. I'm told those people were actually warned. They were warned, and but they continued, and now the mansions there, and
there was also a court order, you know. So those houses needs to be demolished. Yeah,
I'm told they were warned while in construction. But I remember the time we went there, they were making it seem like they've just been told, like, demolish your houses. But you know, when I learned later, like through research and all that, when I knew that no, these people, the time the houses were just foundations, they were actually warned, but then they abrogated the law, continued building, put up mansions with wall fences, and now they're crying for.
The Chingola, Sharon did point out that part.
Maybe they're hoping that no one can come and demolish a mansion. I don't know.
No. When there's need, when you know, you build on an illegal place, you acquire land illegally and you build there. Just know that there will be a time where your house will be demolished, and then there will be no compensation. Again, Zipporah, then this brings me to something that we also should, you know, address as a country. You know, most of the time when you see people obtaining this land illegally, it's because the cadres are involved. You know, why should we let cadres, you know, be in the forefront in the allocation of land? If there's, you know, the relevant Ministry of Land, the council there, why shouldn't the council take up their mandate? This is something that we should also look at. But anyway, away from that, right about now, we'll go direct into playing another story where we saw Gears saying that they're going to challenge Bowman Lusambo and Joseph Malanchi to recontest in the Kavushi and Kwacha constituency by-elections respectively. But anyway, these are the two former opposition, now opposition, now opposition, yes. But these are the two former Kavushi member of parliament, Bowman Lusambo, and we have former Kwacha member of parliament, Joseph Malanji, whose elections were recently nullified by the High Court, and also the Constitutional Court upheld that decision. So Gears was saying, Zipporah, that if they go ahead to recontest, they're going to challenge because they are abrogating the law. Yeah. So anyway, very interesting story. Very interesting. Let's get to see what that story has for us.
We want to put it on record that now that the Patriotic Front has officially announced the adoption of the three people whose elections were nullified on account of violence, corruption, malpractices, electoral malpractices, and also for non-possession or indeed production of the grade 12 certificate as a prerequisite for nomination. We are going to challenge this decision in the courts of law. And we are going to trigger 2 articles of our Constitution, if not 3 or more. The first one is Article 2, that demands that we defend, we protect, we prevent, we resist anyone who wants to abrogate the Constitution by overthrowing it, suspending it, or indeed abrogating it. And what the Patriotic Front has done is basically offending the Constitution.
Quite interesting there, and I'm sure many people expecting me, and for example, Mr. Joseph Malanji, because he was actually, his seat was recently nullified on assertions that he did not have a grade 12 certificate. So people are wondering, like, what time will he get his certificate before 15th September? But people are really curious about all those things.
According to him, he claims he has a grade 12 certificate. So we'll see. But anyway, there's this challenge which Gears has put across, saying no, you know, when they go ahead and, you know, recontest in these by-elections, they will be abrogating the law. They'll be invoking Article 2 of the Constitution. You know, so there are these challenges. But anyway, the opposition PF have already adopted these two people to recontest in the Kabushi, claiming that these are people who are popular on the ground when it comes to Kwacha constituency, Mr. Joseph Malanji, when it comes to Kabushi constituency, Mr. Bowman Nusambo. They're claiming that these people are the ones who are popular and should be adopted.
Anyway, I wait to see what will happen. There are those electoral experts versus the candidates. Yeah, definitely. And so, moving on, Miriam, to our viewers, you can actually leave us messages on Facebook because our phone lines are still not going through. But you can leave us a message on Facebook on your thoughts towards the discussion. And just now, before we dive into our interview at 8, we're just going to take a look at rural development, bringing about rural development using the Constituency Development Fund. As they are aware, most rural areas have been lagging behind, but how best can we actually bring about development in these areas using CDF to make sure that they do not continue lagging behind? And just to help us put our topic into perspective, we're going to take a look at one of the stories done from Mumbwa on development. Do stay tuned in.
For a land rich in gold such as Mumbwa district in Central Province, one would expect to see a good road network and overall development. This, however, is not the case, as a large portion of Mumbwa district remains a village characterized by dust roads. The story is not different for roads leading to the mines, as these two have not been tarmacked by companies mining gold, which is the most expensive mineral, out of their social corporate responsibility to the community. Residents of Mumbwa district lament that this has remained the case for years, while the foreign-owned mining companies benefit from the country's mineral resource.
Maroti ni rubana idhini wamena wa mabwero oti bachiteko benefit atoro maskuru bakonze bwino vonse vipeze kati kulipa
road yose niyaona kama ningi or mahonda mimi accident pakisa because maroti yake ni pipe migodi furu sote zopempa tutandizira kuno or kutuona kuba government new government nakarako.
They explain that apart from the lack of roads, accessing quality healthcare on time is still a daydream due to the long distance to public hospitals, especially for those living far away from the boma.
Nokubusena trigetema miners gunyina nchi batujitira barazabo barabweza bintu bamana barawunka oro maraiti tabatubambiri oro marodi tababambi but maranga maroads but barainda mamyotoga abweza ma materials but gunyina nchi bajita no rusumpugo. So twaromba boma nkairanganyo arubazu ruwa bantu aba miners kunyina nchiba jita is better baza kubusena kuno kabatu gwasha ndiswe.
Despite social corporate responsibility having brought change to many areas in the developing world, the story is different for Zambia. One would be left to question if the status quo will be allowed to continue, which is equivalent to milking a cow without feeding it. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Mumbwa District. Electricity is one of the most important factors in production, and the lack of electricity in an area often means that economic activities which people can venture into are limited. While Zambia's urban areas have been electrified to over 60% according to data from the Ministry of Energy, rural electrification only stands at 8%. Development in areas without electricity is also limited, as this means that economic activities are mostly limited to agriculture and other similar ventures. Such is the case of residents of Stephen Mwaza village in Mumba district of Central Province who have called for the process of rural electrification to be expedited, stating that this will help them add value to their crops by producing mealie meal using hammer mills.
Mapehingu tufesinga guno tuli bantu ubamwi ubashalire. So mugushalira ugwesu bintu bimwi biragaga kuti tubijite orokati yenda kubijitanka mbo wani turarakinga malaiti tunyina tatujigonhi wambenga twa donsa malaiti ugonkwabere ulima kilometers manjanji kuti tunyamugano orogoya kujigaja malaiti twajita kubookinga na mbikoti na mahonda ni distance ambwe ni 4 kilometers to 6 kilometers. So tulalomba boma iyagaza new government itugwashe andiswe tuyeye koguno ukuthi andiswe tusumpuge malaiti aragonya kutuletera bintu binjanji either ingatwapanga goroga community school arogali malaiti abigayo ingagabiri kwakwi abimwi ibisebenza malaiti.
Another resident identified as Miss Beatrice Mutinta has also spoken out.
Anenti na challenge mukayangana the way Lord kutoka ku jinali borofika kuno ku village kwa Stephen Mwaze village tiribe malaiti kulibe malaiti mukayangana manyumba malaiti tienda kudali olobana batu ku maskulu kwa mine bali kuyenda ni kudali 7 kilometers tuchende tupeze kuli malaiti kwinangu ni 12 kilometers tuchende tupeze kuli malaiti. So tupemba babo matianga nini ko naise malaiti kuno mkatikirako malaiti bazatireterako tugayo tatengako tugayo tatengako maloni tatengako soche ndalama zabine mnapasira at least tapezako kutinga kuli malaiti bya savings batinga kuli be malaiti bya savings.
Meanwhile, government through the Rural Electrification Authority REA has targeted to implement 14,444 new connections from the 362.2 million kwacha in the 2022 national budget.
2022 projects are expected to bring a total of 14,444 number of connections. This will represent a significant increase in the rates of rural electrification in Zambia.
Zambia has a goal of becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030 and easy access to electricity across the country. We hope Zambia to achieve this goal. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Mumba District in Central Province.
So there you have it. Those are two stories talking about how many rural areas are still lagging behind. And Miriam, when you talk about rural areas and underdevelopment, this is also negatively affecting civil servants, for example, teachers, health workers, when they go to these places. They're actually running away from these places.
Oh,
wanting to come here in the area.
You know, last week I saw a post on Facebook where this, you know, a grass-thatched house was built for teachers. And then, you know, in my mind, you know, it came fast to me, and I said, this is the more reason why teachers, you know, run away, shun away from going to such places. When they're posted there, you know, 3 months after working, they want to come back to Lusaka. It's because of the environment and how development is in those areas. Talking about electricity, you want to charge your phone. Talking about electricity, you know, you want to use your laptop.
It's really hard. I remember one time when I went to the village, I had to charge my phone to the fullest. And then now you make sure that you only use your phone when it's time for calls. If you want to make an important call, that's the only time you use your phone. But otherwise you can't use it like on social media and all that. Even when it comes to network, you have to go and look for a tree. Like this is still happening like literally today. So imagine me and Barry have your phone. I don't know how many times a day you charge it because it keeps draining, you keep using it. But then when you go to the village, you have to charge your phone in advance. And use maybe in 2 weeks your phone will still be on. You switch it off and you switch it on when you want to use it. You switch it off when you're not using it. But that's the situation.
But what if people want to communicate with you?
That's the situation. And you have to actually go and look for this network. So it's really discouraging. Even like doing general work there is hard. For example, as Miriam, as media, if you're not working in a rural area, you need to be at a place where there's electricity because you need a laptop and all these things. And so if we're talking about Zambia becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030, it means that the whole country has to benefit, not just Lusaka and Ndola Kitu. It means the whole country, Kaputa, Shangombo, and all that. And so really the onus is on civic leaders to make sure that these areas that have been lagging behind actually benefit fully from CDF. And talking about that, Miriam, there has been another discussion where people have been saying that maybe rural areas should get a huge chunk of the CDF in comparison to urban areas. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Zipa, they can have, those are good thoughts, looking into place that, talking about urban areas, they're already quite developed. You see, the development is there. You're able to see development. You talk about good schools, you talk about good roads, but when you come to rural areas, you can't boast about good roads. You can't boast about good schools. You find schools, they don't have, roofs, they don't have decks, floor, there's no floor there.
The windows are broken. You sit on the floor.
Exactly.
That's really what is happening.
And when it's rain season, you find the children are not going to school. And then you're talking about development, and you're talking about achieving this goal by 2030. It's quite impossible. So there's need, yes, to reconsider and say, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to, maybe put in a lot of money when it comes, allocate a lot of resources when it comes to the constituency development funds, especially in rural places, so that we can see this huge development in comparison to the urban areas.
And this will also actually end the problem of rural-urban migration, because that's why people always complain that, for example, if you look at the sewer system in Lusaka, it's the other time I was doing
Lusaka people always complain about sewer every time.
The other time I was talking to the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company, who say these problems of sewer spillages are as a result of these places being overpopulated. For example, maybe the other time they said, I think if I remember very well, they said Lusaka originally was planned for about 800,000. But now over 3 million. So you find that the existing infrastructure is strained. And this is because of people living in rural areas coming here. But if there's development everywhere, people will stay where they are. There will be no need to overcrowding.
Exactly, Zipporah. I'm told, Lusaka, I'm from the village. I come to Lusaka. I find Lusaka is quite developed. It's a good place. We have electricity, we have roads, good roads.
And junkies.
Not every place is junkies anyway. We have good roads and what. I wouldn't want to go back to the village because I've seen this, this huge development, especially if you're a youth there.
And when you're fetching water, something as simple as fetching, it should be as simple as fetching water. When you go in the village, Miriam, you have to walk
a long distance.
It's not as easy as opening your tap and you're complaining, lifting your bucket from the tap inside the house. No, you have to actually walk. You put that bucket on top of your head. You're putting in danger the crocodiles and all these things. So we need development.
Imagine
in rural areas.
Just water, you need to walk a long distance just for you to have access to water. And then you come to Lusaka, water is at your disposal. You can easily access it. So going back, why should I go back to the village as Zipporah? But other people have their reasons of why they wouldn't want to go back. But anyway, this is why we are calling that there's need to develop these areas so that as we move forward in achieving our 2030 goal of Zambia being a prosperous middle-income country, we do not leave anyone behind. But anyway, in case you have just tuned in to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show, we were saying earlier on, we did mention that we do not have phone calls right now. We're unable to get phone calls from our viewers. This is due to some technical challenges. I know a lot of people, when you talk about technical challenges, especially the technical guys, will be like, no. But anyway, this is due to technical challenges. But this is not stopping you from contributing to this program. We are streaming live, and please do drop us your comment or your question and we'll be able to respond to that. And at 8 hours we will be joined by another guest where we're going to be looking at another topic. But right about now we are talking about rural development and bringing development in rural areas and utilizing the constituency development fund. Exactly.
And Miriam, I think our guest is actually ready, so just move on to the next segment where we're going to be talking about bringing sanity into the health sector. Miriam, this story, I don't know, it's really sad. I don't know if it wants to make me laugh or maybe, I don't know, I'm caught in between emotions. The story where you saw many people celebrating that their names were in the newspaper, but then you find that they go there, they're told their names are not in the database. So these health workers were actually complaining in an interview with, I think, one of our colleagues, Prudence, on Friday, covered them, where they were saying they can't be given these jobs because they're being told the time when they want to get the appointment letters, they're being told, your name is not in our database. They're saying,
so then who was
they're saying we're not using that list, that's a newspaper list, we've got our own list. So
how? I thought people were advised to, buy a newspaper and check their names.
Officially, they were told. So they're being told, no, that's a newspaper.
I thought those names were official names.
I don't know. Is it a matter of, do they think that maybe someone may have put a relative there, or I don't know.
Wow, interesting. It gets me thinking. 1 minute you were celebrating my name is out, because government anyway did mention earlier on that look out for these tabloids, newspapers, check for your names. Those were one way of officially you checking out for your name, because this was a huge number of people. There's no way government was going to be calling out a registrar. No. So using a newspaper was one of the means of communicating to these people. But now if they're going to claim you are not in our database, wow.
And let's just take a look at that story as we get joined by President of the Biomedical Union of Zambia, Mr. Daniel Mwimbe, to just help us discuss that and other issues in the health sector.
These are among the 145 newly recruited health workers whose names are not appearing in the government database. These health workers have told this reporter that they are surprised to be told that their names are not in the database when they were genuinely recruited and their names published in the daily newspapers. The health workers now fear that they might be replaced if the problem is not urgently resolved, and have wondered why they are being told to write letters by the Health District Administrative Office when the problem can easily be resolved.
What to our name in the newspaper. So they just said like they have issues with the system. But up to now, today is a Friday. We've been coming here every day, but they don't give us a concrete answer for us to know what the way forward about this issue.
All we just want is an explanation. We are here at the PHO's office. We want answers. We don't want feedback that we'll get back to you or we will investigate. No, we want answers. We want real answers. We want our names to be appearing. We have no time. We have to report for duty on the 1st of September. And if they say we have to come back next week, we have to come with letters. What is that all for?
Yeah, if someone has got an evidence that the name is in the newspaper, let them enter the names in the database, then print out the letters, the appointment letters, because time is running out. Before 1 September, we have to report for work at the district health office. We have to report there.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Sylvia Masebo has assured that all those whose names appeared in the newspapers are not appearing in the government database will be employed in the shortest possible time.
Let me also assure those affected that for as long as your name appeared, was advertised as having been offered a job, you are guaranteed to be employed. So my appeal is please remain calm.
The health minister also adds that his ministry has observed that some health workers were recruited in more than one province simply because they did not follow the instructions that each person was supposed to apply in one province. The minister says his ministry is working to see how such issues can also be resolved.
For those who applied in more than 2 places, a decision was made not to disqualify them, but to try and eliminate them from other districts, especially if they don't reside in that district. So there's a bit of cleaning up going on, but I just want to assure the public that nobody is going to be displaced by somebody else. If you are going to be removed, then there must be a very, very good reason.
The recruitment of more than 11,000 health personnel has come as a blessing to some who have stayed for many years without formal employment, hence the need to ensure that these employees are quickly sent to their respective health centers so that they get to serve the people of Zambia diligently. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Thank you for still staying with us. And so right now we have been joined by Mr. Daniel Mwimbe, President of the Biomedical Union of Zambia, to just help us discuss the topic of bringing sanity to the health sector. So welcome to the show, Mr. Mwimbe. Good morning.
Thank you, and good morning to you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Sure.
And so to our viewers, just a reminder that you can always leave us a message on Facebook. Our phone lines, they're not working. But do join in the conversation by leaving your thoughts through a Facebook message. And so, Mr. Mwimbe, just taking a look at the story that we have played, what issues maybe come to your mind as a unionist, for example? How do you look at that situation?
Yeah, so for us, it's a confused status that we have there. Knowing that we were here and we were discussing the same issues around employment. And I remember one of the questions that I raised was that this recruitment was marred with a lot of disorganization. And that's why we saw a lot of issues rising. And some of the issues, the questions that we were raising, is it that government doesn't have money, didn't have money, or didn't prepare itself? Because when you look at the way Minister of Health handled the whole recruitment process, it raised a lot of questions why they were so disorganized. And for us, we were thinking those were some of the answers, because the priorities that they had set and all those issues that they were putting on the table when we were calling on them were not the things that came out. We saw a lot of issues rising from there. Some were even wrongly recruited. Someone is a nurse but has been recruited as a medical doctor. We saw those issues actually coming from this recruitment. And for us, those were some of the reasons why we saw the disorganization in the Ministry of Health. And it is just unfortunate that we have a situation now where people have names in the newspaper, but they were not actually recruited, and others have been recruited even 3 times. We have, in different districts, and even when Minister of Health had emphasized to say no one should apply in 3 different districts, but we still had such issues arising where somebody has been recruited 3 times or in 3 districts. So if, like the minister's statement, where she's saying they actually decided not to disqualify such candidates, but to actually give them 1 district. So what happens in another district where they were recruited? Are we saying somebody should replace them? So all those are some of the answers now that we should get from the ministry, and a straightforward, or should we say a good way forward of what they intend to do as Minister of Health. For us, we haven't just been satisfied with the whole recruitment process. There was so much disorganization in the whole process.
Could it be maybe that they were pushed by maybe different stakeholders to release the names? Could that have been the cause?
That's one of the things that for us we see that they only succumbed to pressure. If you look at the way they released their statement, the statement that was jointly signed by Teaching Service and the Public Service, you see that Minister of Health and the Public Service itself was just succumbing to pressure. We saw where Minister of Education was trying to give their statement and assure their people that the names would come out. That's when Minister of Health also said, can we do a joint statement? And we all speak the same. But even after that, Minister of Health still went on to postpone the release of the names. That just shows that there has been a lot of disorganization in the whole process, and probably it's because they didn't take time to plan how the whole process should be handled. Minister of Education, the moment they were told 30,000 teachers, they sat down and made a very good plan. We saw how they kept updating the nation on what they were doing, and until they did the recruitment. Even up to now, we don't have as much issues under Ministry of Education as we have. We are talking about 30,000, but we have issues with the 11,000.
What's the problem?
So for us, it is just failure to plan, and also, government should have come out clearly. If they didn't have money, they should have told us, for now we don't have funds to support this, because for us we feel like they are buying time. Because why should we be talking about these issues rising from the names, and then you say, no, can you wait patiently? the letters will be issued this time and that time. It's just buying time for us. We are talking about a process that started in April. For education, it started in May, somewhere there. For health, it's April. Now this is August, getting into September, and we are still talking about the same recruitment. So for us, this is like buying time.
We were assured about transparency in this recruitment of 11,000 health personnel, and then you are now talking about buying time. Are we seeing this in future by the, the ministries doing that later on, when we find ourselves in such a scenario, given the fact that people were assured, buying newspapers, your names will be there, but they go out there and their names are not in the database. And we're talking about transparency.
I think I remember we are on record as Biomedical Union of Zambia that the transparency that the ministry or government was talking about, has been talking about. Yes, they might have tried to be so transparent in certain areas, but on the recruitment of health workers, for us, we are still not satisfied with the transparency itself. I remember I brought in the issues of the issues to do with the DCs, the district commissioners, who were all involved in this recruitment. And I think I brought an issue to say, when you take it to DCs, you are putting it political, and that's where cadres, different cadres who you don't even know. That's why even today we are still having these challenges. Who sat and started crafting those names on the newspaper, and yet they are actually not in the database recruited, because the database should have that information to say this such and such a person has been recruited. But even today we are having now names submitted to media houses, and they are printed in the print media, but you can't find them actually in the database. So where did they get this? It's because they involved too many politics. When you bring in offices that are politically inclined, you start now confusing the whole process that is supposed to be professional. Because at the end of the day, Ministry of Health should have handled this issue within themselves professionally. They know the structures they use. But government had to say, no, we are doing transparency and we have to involve all these offices. That's the reason why we are now arguing on the names that are not in the database, but they are in the newspaper. So such are some of the issues that now Minister of Health needs to come and answer to. And for us, even the statement that has come from the minister is not so satisfying, because she has not answered the question as to why names are not in the database, but they are in the newspaper. People are asking, I have bought the newspaper, I found my name.
Can you say, is it one way of the response that they gave us, is it one way of them buying time?
Yeah, for us, like we have said, it's all about buying time. And we get to say, insisting to say, if they had found any challenge, they needed to come out to us and say, to the stakeholders and say, comrades, we have found this challenge. In as much as we have tried to be transparent, this and that is a challenge. So that we understand, even if they take long, and somebody comes out to say, at this point it's because of ABCD, people are going to understand. It might be painful, but people would have understood to say, the reason why we have a dragging in the process of recruitment is because of ABCD. Unlike you are pushed because of pressure, then you go and craft names which nobody knows where they came from, and you publish them in the newspaper, but they are not in the database. That becomes even so disappointing, and we don't know whether the minister herself is satisfied with the work that the colleagues that she gave the work to have done. Otherwise, for us, it's disappointing.
Don't you think someone should be made answerable for that? If there were people who were tasked to do the mandate of issuing those names to the relevant media institution to print out those names, and then later on you find that those names are not in the database, should someone be answerable for that?
Well, answerable, yes, we could say somebody should be answerable. But if you look at the situation they have as Minister of Health, we would say leadership is about taking up the blame. So we know that the minister needs to take up the blame, because we understand that being a leader, she was also being given pressure by stakeholders, and she was giving pressure on the officers that were actually working on this. Much as such a thing has happened, yes, she needs to take up the leadership, the mantle, to ensure that those that did that are somehow cautioned. And even herself, we know that she's going to take up the blame, because she was the one who was leading the entire process as a leader. She led the entire process as the minister, and she understood almost every point. At every point, she was being given feedback to say, we are here and we are. And probably we should not separate public service from this, because they, as public service commission, they were the ones that said, we are going to ensure that we do this this work. So they also shouldn't be left out. They are the ones that have put us in this mess. Probably if Minister of, I'm just trying to assume, probably, if Minister of Health had their own commission as a service, a commission, they would have done better than what we have seen at the public service, where now we are talking about names that have been crafted because they were being pushed. For me, I can understand the pressure they were in, that if you saw that statement, they were just coming out to satisfy the pressure, to say, comrades, we are going to reduce the names. Even when they knew that nothing was done properly, they needed to check each and every process. And that's why for us we said, why did they even take this process to the districts, which they knew would be a vast process they couldn't even handle? They would have left it at national level. They would have left it at provincial level probably, if they wanted to start the decentralization. You know, when you are learning something, when you are starting something, it's a learning process. You don't go straight to districts. They would have started with the provinces and say, can we do it from there? Because there, it is even easier to control. When you send the OP there, you send the SEC, you send all these officers that can check the transparency, it would have been possible than taking it all the way to the district commissioners. And then they have the result that we are seeing in the newspaper, where they have names, but they can't actually find them in the database. This is what we need to be talking about now.
Now, we have been told that well-deserving people have been recruited, but with the current scenario, does this bring confidence in the recruitment system?
Of course, it doesn't. No one is satisfied with the whole process, and we hope that they have picked the lessons. For us, we know that we have been calling about the issue of them picking the lessons from what they have done now, because they will have another recruitment coming. They need to have now understood what went wrong. Where should we probably tighten up ourselves? Because we have seen already 11,000 has been a problem. Suppose next year the president says, I want Minister of Health to recruit 30,000 health workers. How are we going to handle it? We are ready to handle 11,000. That also actually makes it so difficult even for the president to say, comrades, can you recruit 30,000? Because then the president will be saying, probably the problem was we gave you a number that was too huge for you to handle. We'll give you 2,000, probably to see if you can recruit. Because that's the impression we are giving, that we have failed to handle such a number to recruit. And for us, that does not give any confidence. Not only to us, even to the president who would have given them the mandate to carry out such an activity. They have failed lamentably. And they should come out and probably say, yes, in this one, we have failed. Probably we promise to do it better next time when we go to recruit the health workers.
You did mention earlier on that this comes as a result of involving too many politics. In the near future, do we see, such kind of things being avoided?
Yeah, we wish to see that avoided, and we are hopeful. That's why we are saying they have learned lessons. The minister needs now to, of course, not the minister, let's say government itself, has seen what is happening. And they need now, as they plan for next recruitments, to see how best they can avoid certain areas, especially political offices. Because Minister of Health has structures. Minister of Education has structures. So if they are recruiting, they need to use their own structures. And for Minister of Education, we saw the Teaching Service Commission was actually on top of things. If they use their own structure, they are going to handle these things so properly. But the moment you start involving these other offices that may not understand what you do, that's where you find somebody has been recruited. Like I mentioned, a scientist is being recruited as a nurse. Where on earth? Come on. So all those are certain things that you would ask. Probably if the officers that would have advised in those areas would have been those political officers to say, no, I want this one to be recruited. And somebody ends up being recruited as a nurse. I have that information, and that data is there. We had to start pushing. How did you get recruited as a nurse? Can you find a way to push that you get a position as a scientist? And we are lucky that the comrade got a position as a scientist. But the fact is that this comrade had been recruited as a nurse. It's because of those issues that you had to subject them to so many officers that may not understand what you do. But if probably in the future we avoid taking these recruitments, so far that, transparency is transparency. It's not so difficult actually to define. If you bring in onlookers, you bring in those that can actually come and see how the process is going. Like they said, the SEC, the OP, all these. Actually, you are simply saying we want to ensure that there is transparency. And that's what we should have done. But taking these recruitment so far to the DCs, now the recruitment process itself is even in the DC's office. These should have been handled so properly. And for us, we are still calling on them to have picked the lessons, avoid certain things, and learn from the past what has happened today so that they can beautify what will happen next time.
In case you're just joining us, we are looking at restoring sanity in the health sector, and in studio we are joined by Biomedical Union of Zambia President Daniel Mwimbe, who is helping us discuss our topic of discussion this morning. And we have a comment from our Facebook viewer who says, does government really have the money for recruitment, or are they playing games? You unionists should speak out for us.
Well, we are not into their pockets. That we should say. We are not into their pockets to understand whether they have money or they don't have. What we know is that they have to recruit. And they have assured the Zambian people that they are so much interested. It's a government that is so much interested in the health of the people. And for them, they have said they are going to recruit. And they have given us 11,000. So for us on that end, we commend them as government, and we know that, yes, they have assured that they have the money, they are going to send these people to go and save. And we hope that these that are happening, the issues that are happening, will quickly be sorted out. We don't want to see them buy time through that. What we want to see is that they have seen what has happened, let them sit down, sort out this, because at the end of the day, the people of Zambia are waiting, are very much waiting to see their health workers getting into the facilities to serve them. So the core is that speculations might be there to say probably government doesn't have money. For us, we don't want to have that insinuation that they don't have money. What we want to have in our minds is the hope that they have the money, because they have recruited already. So the issues of whether they have, they don't have, they have recruited, they have to send these officers, and these officers have to go and work. So it's not an issue of, again, looking at money. If they don't have money, they have to look for money, because these officers have to report. And we are told that by September, they have to report. So 1st September, almost all of them should be reporting. We shouldn't hear again saying the issues of saying, no one should report. We are.
But with the issue that we have seen of late, where they're saying the names of other individuals are not there in the database, don't you think this will delay the process?
That's the same thing we are calling. We still have days before September. We are saying let them sort out this mess. We don't want to hear September, because then we'll be here to say they are buying time. They told us September all officers need to report. So we are giving them a benefit of doubt. September, officers have to report. Meaning, between now and September, they should sort out this mess. They have seen the mess, and a lot of people, unfortunately, have found the names. and they are not there in the facilities. So they need to quickly get this information. Who is not there? How do they allocate them? So that come September, 1st September, we want to see these people reporting for work. Because for us as unionists, we are interested to see these people go for work. And they start serving, they start getting paid. That is our interest. Because if they delay in September, we know that they need to be October. And October, that is December already. We are getting into December. That now...
It will be a year already.
It will be a year. That will be very frustrating because then we'll be talking about government not being truthful with their people, not being so honest. So for us, what we are calling on Minister of Health is to quickly work with the public service, quickly sort out this mess, and ensure that by September, these officers need to report. So we want to just comment on that one, on the comment that has come to say, for us, we are going to speak out, and we are hopeful September they would have sorted out this mess and have them report for it. That is our hope. And we don't want to insinuate that they don't have money.
Definitely. And anyway, I have told us that they have money, so we actually want to see the recruitment taking place. And so maybe talking about the health sector in general, there's another issue where we've seen that most administrative positions are taken by doctors. Do you feel this somehow maybe shows that other health workers who are not doctors are not appreciated, or how do you look at this scenario?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the biggest comment we would want to make there is that if you look at how Minister of Health has been managed, even at, you know, our comrades, the comrades from the other side, the medical doctors, have always wanted to manage Minister of Health. And the mess we are in, most of the mess that we are in, the minister herself pointed it out. To say we are in mess, or because we have allowed one to feel like they are the only managers that can actually handle Minister of Health. You know, a medical doctor is well qualified in the area where they are, and for us, we still feel being on the ward, being in the ward, that is their specialty. Working with the patients, that's where they are qualified. Now we have a scenario which started a long time where a medical doctor was the only officer that was qualified to be heading all other institutions. And we are coming all through with that, knowing that the medical doctor at that time was the only one with a degree at that time. And everyone felt that was the only one who can manage. But that is where we missed it from that time, because management has its own specialization. And we want to mention that this has come all the way from school. I remember when we were in school, certain senior officers could even mention to say, you are going there in the ward to manage the people, to manage these officers. Lying to these people to say your job is management, when in fact the management that they should have been talking about is managing a patient, because that is what they are qualified to do. I am a biomedical scientist. When I go to the hospital, my job is to go and manage the lab. That is my job. I must handle the laboratory. And whatever comes with laboratory work, I must handle as a biomedical scientist. But what the scenario that we created, and this has been seen, I'm sure you remember that even the fight that we have now, that the minister now is even coming out like that, is a fight where medical doctors felt they are supposed to manage, Minister of Health, they are supposed to manage, even at cabinet, you know, that they were at cabinet, they were at State House. So almost in every area, they were strategically placed. So even if you take a complaint to say, guys, we are failing to manage this section because of ABCD, they can't hear you, because they knew that they are the ones that are supposed to manage. But we are now in a time when almost every profession has now gone into specializations. If you come to the lab, I'll tell you that we have so many professors now. from biomedical scientists, so many professors that would manage a lab. But you'll be so disappointed to find that a medical doctor has the whole audacity to go and sit at the lab and say, I've come to manage a lab. What does a medical doctor understand in the lab? Because this is a clinician who is supposed to be in the ward managing the patient, but wants to go and manage samples, testing samples, which he understands zero from there. You understand? These are some of the issues that have actually frustrated Minister of Health. The performance that we are seeing at Minister of Health, the poor performance, which the minister herself mentioned, to say we are in a mess, is because a medical doctor wants to jump everywhere. You can't be everywhere as an individual. You are not specialized in everything. That's the reason why, if you go into the districts, you would ask yourself, why do we have the district crying for medical doctors? The district will be crying, we don't have medical doctors, yet we have a medical doctor seated at the district health office managing the office. Are you not the doctor that is supposed to be in the wards there managing the patients in your district? But you hear, no, I have clinical officers, so clinical officers can handle those processes. But the district is crying for a medical doctor. You are the medical doctor that is seated there, but you want to go and sit in the office and start managing the people. Which management skills do you have? So these are some of the issues that have compromised the whole system of Ministry of Health. Somebody who is not trained in pharmaceutical issues wants to go and sit as director somewhere, as a manager, as a director, sitting at pharmaceutical issues, wants to manage a pharmacy. Are you a pharmacist? In the first place, you are supposed to be qualified as a pharmacist for you to understand pharmaceutical processes. So these are some of the issues that we have seen that Ministry of Health, the performance has been so poor, such that even when we say building the confidence, what confidence are we building in the Ministry of Health when one cadre feels like he is the only one who is qualified? You go to the hospitals. At the hospital, what we are supposed to have is a situation where we have the medical superintendent, we have the chief hospital administrator. Chief hospital administrator is actually supposed to be someone who has done administration, someone who has done something to do with management. But you find the medical doctor is crying for that position. I want to go and sit there. Sit there to do what? Are you qualified in that area? So those are some of the areas which we feel, and the minister was very right. We are supporting the minister because if you look at continental, the whole continent is now looking at how do we ensure that we manage the systems better in the Ministry of Health. Because if you are going to say health for all, we are going to say quality health care, what makes it quality? It all starts from people understanding which areas are they specialized in. If you are specialized in clinical areas, can you manage the clinics and ensure that the patients are seen? That's why you go, you find queues in the hospitals. Somebody is not there. He's busy in the office managing files. Files which are supposed to be managed by an HR. He's the one who's now busy looking at HR away. Are you an HR in the first place?
So what do you suggest, like maybe for these people to be qualified and indeed any other person, should they take maybe administrative courses? What is the way forward?
So for us, number one, we want each and every cadre in the Ministry of Health to appreciate what they are qualified to do. So if I am qualified as a biomedical scientist, there's no way I should be found hunting a position that is in pharmacy because I'm not a pharmacist. Let pharmacy manage themselves because they understand their chain of application of processes. They understand how they command their chains. If you come to the lab, let the lab manage itself because in the lab we have people that understand what they are supposed to do. So they understand their processes, let them manage themselves. So when we appreciate what we are qualified to do, then let's do what we are qualified to do. Then if I want to be in management, if I want to be, for instance, in administration, let me add a course that does with that is to do with administration. If a medical doctor is going to do something to do with administration, they are qualified to be appointed. For instance, if you look at district health directors, there is a requirement that one should have done at least public health. So it doesn't matter whether a nurse has done public health. that nurse can be appointed to become a district health director because they have done something to do with the public health. And also they should have done something to do with administration, which is to do with management. So all those issues are the things that we should be talking about now. Let people that are qualified, and we want them to copy the system that is in Tanzania. If you go to Tanzania, they have proper systems. You will never find, even South Africa, you will never find somebody who is qualified in another area trying to jump in the area where they are not qualified. So for us, we are saying, can the ministry, and this is an issue that we brought out actually as a union, together with other unions. Remember the time of PF when I think the PS came out, PSMT came out to say, we need to try and dismantle the team at Ministry of Health to see how we can mix them. For us, we told them to say, this issue of letting doctors manage the whole system will one day crumple the whole system. Because one day they will come out and say they are demanding for this condition of service. And the government will not have. Because they are managing every system. They will say we are not going to work. What will happen? The whole system will crumble down. So what we need is a situation where we can mix them. If at district level, we can have district health director somewhere where there are nurses, a health director who is a nurse. First and foremost, you would ask yourself a question. You have all provincial health directors who are medical doctors. What do they discuss when they meet? Because they will only talk about medicine. They will not talk about how a nurse is supposed to handle. Nurses, how they handle the processes. Because they are not a mixture. They are all one cadre. This spirit is what has killed Ministry of Health because they don't understand certain other areas. But if you mix them, you have a pharmacist who is also a provincial health director somewhere. They will bring in their expertise to say, for us we have a challenge in this and that and that. The reason why we are having this challenge is because of this and that. So when they mix the brains, you have a mixture of brains. That's the only time you can have a better performance of these provincials. But you have all the provinces manned by the medical doctor, all the districts manned by medical doctors. You go to Ndeke House, it's all medical doctors that you find there. Others don't even have influence. You can have an HR who is a director there. No influence at all. Zero influence. Because most of the people that are making decisions are medical doctors. So they will only make decisions that favor one specialty. They will not look at others. That's why the minister came out to say, if I have a marketer who has done a PhD, why shouldn't I employ that marketer? Because they have the expertise to market my ministry. So I can still employ them to be proud to head the marketing team at Ministry of Health if I have that area. Why should I go and pick a medical doctor to become director of public health when I have somebody who has done public health and they have a PhD? The degree you have is just a bachelor's. Why shouldn't I pick somebody who has a PhD, qualified with the experience to come and manage? So those are the areas that we have missed. We feel a medical doctor, just because the qualification says medical doctor, that qualification is a bachelor's. It's as good as a farmer's bachelor. Bachelor's degree is a bachelor's degree. You can't change it. You can't call it a doctorate. A doctorate, if a medical doctor goes and does a doctorate, that is a different scenario altogether, because this one now is all qualified to handle those processes that we are talking about. Now we have somebody from internship. Somebody who is just from internship is given a director. You as an intern, what have you gathered? What experience have you gathered? What expertise do you have as an intern? Zero expertise. So these are some of the areas which we feel Ministry of Health should handle better, because now they have a pool of qualified personnel. Somebody mentioned to say, no, the lab can't lead itself. We need a medical doctor. That was then Honorable Chief. The lab can't lead itself. We need a medical doctor to go and lead. Who told you the lab can't lead itself? We don't have people that are qualified in the lab. When we have professors, we are now insulting the intelligence of the people. Because we have the laboratory personnel who are professors now. They have done all this. And if they have management skills, Why can't they go and manage the lab? Who is a medical doctor now who has, I mean, does the medical doctor now qualify to be a lab manager? And if they are coming to the lab, for us we are saying, if you are coming to the lab, sit on the bench, start analyzing the samples. You don't go and sit in the office. Managing what? What are you managing in the office which you don't understand? If you want to go to pharmacy and you as a medical doctor, you feel in the ward is hot, you don't want to live in the ward. You want to go to pharmacy, go and sit on the bench, start giving Panadol 1, 2, 3. That's what we want. Because those are the officers actually we need more. We don't need people to go and sit in the offices. No. The people we need more are people to sit on the bench so that they can serve the patients. So if the doctor feels in the ward is too hot, they can't stay. They want to be in the pharmacy. Go and sit on that desk. Give the patients the Panadol. Give the patients the drugs that they need. Because what we want are people that are going to serve the patient. And not to live in the offices and swinging in the chairs. No. Those are not the people that we need.
Talking about giving Panadol to the patients, we have seen for quite some time that issues of non-availability of drugs in health facilities has been, you know, a huge concern. Mostly you find when you go to the hospital, you are given Panadol, you know. Sometimes they write a prescription for you by the doctors. Don't you think the recruitment of health workers without drugs and equipment in these health facility will result to nothing?
Well, very good question. Now, if I was to give an answer that actually should make you satisfied, I would say yes. The availability of, I mean, you have the workers but you don't have supplies is something that we should get concerned. But where is it coming from? These are the same issues we are discussing. Where the managing of, I'll tell you that 2 billion has been released. 2 billion released towards supplies. But we still don't have supplies. The question should be, why don't we have these supplies when this is colossal money? 2 billion released towards drugs. Is it that government has failed to procure? It's not that. Probably, I would say, the whole management systems. Because we have people that don't even understand the supply chain. Someone wants to go and sit as Zamra, or I mean as Zamsa, who is not qualified, but they want to go and sit as Zamsa. To do what as Zamsa? It's because they want management positions, which they don't understand. And that's why the minister was very categorical to come out, because it was out of that anger where we have the money, we have spent the money on supplies. But why are we not having these supplies? It's because people that are in the system, majority of them do not understand how the supply chain is done. And these are people that will just cry for positions. That's why we are saying, if for instance we are talking about drugs, we have a command chain where a pharmacist is managing ZAMSA, and they have a director at Ministry of Health who is in charge of all that command system, who is a pharmacist. Don't you think even at the lowest rank we need a pharmacist in the command chain? Because these are the people that are going to understand where the drugs are needed, where we need to send this. But then you have, because you don't have these people who understand the issue of supplies. You talk about laboratory supplies. You have someone who is just seated at UTH and thinks the lab is at UTH. And I'll tell you, these are the issues that have been so serious. And I mentioned last time to say, the lab is being managed by a doctor in the name of Dr. Shilem. The question is, does he understand the lab? He thinks the lab is at UTH. Now, the supplies are not only at UTH. They're supposed to go to every other area. But because he doesn't understand, you discover that he only thinks about UTH as the lab. These are some of the issues, the real issues that have caused the problems in terms of supplies, the problems in terms of when you talk about drug supplies. These are the real issues that Ministry of Health needs to deal with. If they don't deal with these issues, even if they are going to give us 10 billion for drugs, we will not have the drugs because the supply chain is terrible. The people that are managing the systems are not people that are qualified. They don't understand the systems. And And that's the reason why we want to stand with the minister. To say the minister is right. Can we do the right thing? If it's an appointed personnel who is appointed just on the basis of, no, you need to come and sit here, and majority of them have been co-opted to be in the systems, not because they are qualified. I will not defend some laboratory personnel. Somebody is co-opted in the system but doesn't understand the supply chain. How are they going to supply the commodities? Somebody is co-opted as a pharmacist somewhere, but they don't understand how they are, what they are supposed to do. We are saying, appoint people that are qualified. They will give you a service that you need. But if you are going to appoint people that you just want maybe to please you, to be submissive to you, then I'm sorry, you are not going to have the service that is needed. People right now are going to receive the health workers, but they have no supplies. The only supply that they have is Panadol, probably. Most of the areas. You go to the facility, it's Panadol, because that's what somebody knows, Panadol should be there. But if you ask them, what else should be there? The antibiotics that are supposed to be there, you never find them, because they only know Panadol.
But you know, it makes me, you know, question, is it that we do not have the capacity of, you know, having these other medicine or stuff like that? I don't know. I don't really understand how, you know, doctors work. But most of the time when you go there, you always find Panadol. Why is it that? Is it that people are stealing medicines? We have heard stories of, you know, health workers stealing medicines and open up a pharmacy in these compounds and selling those drugs.
Yeah, for us, those assertions of stealing, we wouldn't dwell on them, because those are simply allegations that somebody is stealing drugs. But the whole supply chain, in terms of picking what drugs are supposed to be there, and yeah, the whole system in terms of picking which drugs they need to procure has been terrible. I'll tell you that sometimes you get to wonder. You go to Zamsa, you find most of those drugs. You can actually go there and find most of the laboratory commodities. You walk there, you have been looking for a commodity which has not been supplied to your facility, but it's seated there and it's actually getting wasted.
Wasted, exactly. Why should we, you know, have such?
This is the reason why we are saying the management system, the systems that Minister of Health is using, need to be somehow changed and molded in a way that the system can serve the people, because you cannot have things getting wasted as Zamsa. Because just because somebody doesn't understand them, just because somebody doesn't know where they're supposed to be, then they get wasted. We want a system where somebody will understand what they are doing at every particular area. If you go to Zamsa, we have gone there several times. You find that you've been looking for instance, from the lab, you've been looking for Gimsa. There's this brand of Gimsa that you are supposed to use to do your malaria tests and all that. But you can't have them at the facility. But they're there. Exactly. Just because the one who's seated there doesn't understand them. That is the problem that we are having. So if the Minister of Health can find a way to build a system, for us we are looking at a system that can give confidence. A system where you walk into the facility, the supplies are there. A system that you go to the facility, you find workers. Like now we have workers that are going to be posted. But that should also be accompanied with supplies. Supplies, including machinery. Just because you don't understand the machine, a certain machine, then it doesn't mean it should not be procured. So all those are some of the areas that we feel Minister of Health needs to do better. And we hope that government will quickly come in and help Minister of Health build the confidence in the people. Otherwise, as it stands, there is very little confidence that we are built. We hope the minister is going to handle that and is going to rise above the bar and lead the team and show that indeed we need the confidence to be built in the Ministry of Health.
Talking about managing system, there's a comment from Edwin Zulu who says, change the system and allow qualified people to manage Ministry of Health and fuse in other professions or skills. The same should go to other ministries. and institutions.
And again, additionally, he says, as a specialist, you're an expert in your own field. Doctors do not know everything, as they're specialized in the profession and not everything. For example, a reporter is skilled in journalism and a lawyer in criminal or civil cases or laws. So your response to those comments?
Exactly. You know, those are just speaking the same mind to say, let people get to sit where they are qualified. Because it's only when you sit where you are qualified that when you work with confidence. Because if you are going to sit in an area where people are thinking you are not qualified, it means even that confidence that you have, you will not actually give it. Even the expertise that you have, you will not give them. And it is that has actually frustrated so many people. At the end of the day, you sit there just for money. You are getting paid, but even when you go out there, you are not proud. You can't even show to the people to say, I actually work for Ministry of Health. I'm actually that person that you come to. You don't give the confidence to the people. So if only people can sit where they are qualified. And for us, we are not going to shy away. Doctors need to maintain their lane. You go to radiology. You go to radiology. You go to radiology where you do those scans. You find the medical doctor is seated there saying, I'm the radiologist. Yet the radiographer can't become a radiologist. Come on, if you want to be a radiologist, just choose. I will go to different home, do radiography, and I don't want to be a medical doctor. Because at the end of the day, we are robbing the wards and the patients, the doctors that they are supposed to see in the wards. We are now taking them to radiology. We are taking them to the lab where these doctors have nothing to do in the labs. Right now, they have gone flat out to ensure that every position in all these, because all they are looking for now are positions. So if on the ward there is no position, they will start now scanning. Where can the position be? Tomorrow you hear somebody wants to become a nurse. And that is where we are going. You hear a medical doctor now wants to take up a position that is supposed to be handled by a nurse. If not, years from now you hear that a doctor has become a chief nursing officer, you are not going to be disappointed. But this is the route that they want to take, where every position, all they look for are positions. They are not looking at where is the work. Is there work on the ward? Can we go and serve the people on the ward? They are now looking at where is the position. Within themselves, oh, at the lab there is a position. Can we put you there? That is the challenge that we have. Don't we have qualified people at the lab who can also say, there is a position. Can I take up that position? So if you are going to be a scramble for positions, then the system is not going to save the people of Zambia. It should not be a scramble for positions, but it should be actually a scramble for patients to see where can I find the patient. That should be the motivation. Where can I find the patient? If you can't find the patients on the ward, you can even go on the streets. Can I go and serve the people? Because at the end of the day, you wanted to serve the people, and you wanted to serve them in the capacity as a medical doctor. So we don't need to see a medical doctor going to scramble for positions at environmental health. What are you doing at environmental health as a medical doctor? That's why environmental health also has qualified now. They need also to handle their own processes. So those are some of the areas that are not satisfying to us.
Definitely very, very interesting there. And thank you to our viewers who have actually been very engaging actually on our Facebook page. And I'm sure the message has gone out there. Exactly. We were discussing the issue of those health workers who have not found their names in the database despite their names being in the newspaper. And secondly, the issue of bringing sanity to the health sector. How best can we ensure that qualified people actually run positions to make sure that the Ministry of Health runs efficiently? Your concluding remarks, Mr. Mwimbe.
Yeah, so for us, we just want, as Biomedical Union of Zambia, we want to support the minister, and we hope that her statement was to start the beginning of bringing sanity to Minister of Health. The challenge that we have with the current government, they seem not to understand certain policy statements. When the president speaks anything, if the president says, I wish there was a road here, what the president is saying, tomorrow when I come, I should find a road. Even if it is your home, he says, I wish there was a road here. He's saying, can I find a road here? That is a policy statement. When the minister says, we feel this is how it's supposed to be, those that are working to implement the policies are supposed to start thinking about it and crafting to ensure that they buy into that idea. Because the minister is seeing it as a leader to say, this is how I wish the system should be. And if we are going to start working around that, but what we have seen is that the president will speak, people will just take it, it's a statement. The minister will come out like that strongly as she came out. People will just take it, it's a statement. But at the end of the day, we are not helping these leaders to do what they are, to implement what they feel should be implemented. So for us, we feel those that are working with the minister, and especially the PSS, should start looking at this agenda that the minister has brought out and see how best can it work and how best can we bring sanity to Ministry of Health. Otherwise, with the same system, we are not going to inspire anyone. The confidence that we have been looking at to say let's inspire the confidence is not going to be anywhere near. So we need to start heading towards bringing sanity to Ministry of Health, inspiring the confidence that people are waiting for. Otherwise, the system is so frustrating and disappointing, and we shouldn't continue moving into the same direction.
Thank you so much. This is where we come to the end of our Camnet TV breakfast show. We were looking at restoring sanity in the health sector. For our viewers, Edwin Zulu, who was watching us live on Facebook page, we have acknowledged your contribution there. Daniel Munde, we have Mwape Mwape. Thank you so much, guys. Please do join us tomorrow for another exciting edition of the Camnet TV breakfast show. For me, Miriam Kaimba, and my colleague Zipporah Mshala, it's bye-bye and God bless.